The morning started like any other in Seoul. Commander Hyunwoo Park was drinking his coffee and reading reports when the alarms began screaming. Every screen in the United Earth Command building flashed red. The message was simple but terrifying. Unknown alien contact, priority alpha. Hyunwoo dropped his cup and ran to the main command center. The huge room buzzed with activity as officers rushed to their stations. Chief Science Officer So-Young Kim was already there, her face pale as she stared at the main display. "What do we have?" Hyunwoo asked. "Sir, we detected a massive energy signature 30 minutes ago," So-Young reported. "Something big just appeared at the edge of our solar system. It's not moving toward us, but it's sending a signal." Defense Minister Tae-min Lee arrived, still fixing his uniform. "How big is big?" So-Young touched her tablet, and the main screen showed a detailed scan. The object was enormous, larger than any ship humanity had ever built. It looked like a floating city made of dark metal and strange curves. "The ship is 15 kilometers long," So-Young said quietly. "Our computers can't identify the technology. It's nothing we've ever seen before." Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop. For 300 years, humans had spread across the galaxy. They had found empty planets, old ruins, and strange artifacts, but they had never met another living alien race. Until now. "What's the message?" he asked. "It's in perfect Korean, sir. They want to talk. They say they represent something called the Galactic Council." The three leaders looked at each other. This was the moment they had trained for but hoped would never come. First contact with aliens. But something felt wrong. If these aliens wanted peaceful contact, why did their ship look like a weapon? "Put them through," Hyunwoo ordered. The main screen changed. A figure appeared. Tall, thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and black, and when it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "I am Ambassador Chris of the Veltari Empire, speaking for the Galactic Council. I bring greetings to the species known as humans." Hyunwoo stepped forward. "I am Commander Hyunwoo Park, of United Earth Command. We welcome peaceful contact with your people." The alien's expression didn't change. "This is not a social visit. Commander Park, I bring an official message from the Galactic Council. You will listen." A chill ran down Hyunwoo's spine. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. Where were the exchanges of culture and knowledge? Where was the wonder of meeting another intelligent species? "We're listening," he said carefully. Ambassador Chris raised one of his 4 hands, and a holographic document appeared in the air. The text was in perfect Korean, but the words made Hyunwoo's blood run cold. "By order of the Galactic Council, the species known as humans has been designated as a threat to galactic peace and stability. Your expansion across star systems has been monitored and found to be dangerous and unpredictable." Tae-min Lee stepped forward. "Dangerous? We've never attacked anyone. We've never even met anyone before today." The alien ignored him and continued reading. "The Galactic Council has ruled that humanity must be brought under proper supervision. You have 72 standard hours to comply with the following demands." The holographic text changed, showing a list that made everyone in the room gasp. First, all human military forces will be disbanded immediately. Second, all human colonies outside Earth's solar system will be evacuated within 1 standard year. Third, Earth will surrender all weapons of mass destruction to Council forces. Fourth, humanity will accept permanent Council oversight of all government, technology, and population decisions. The room was dead silent. Hyunwoo felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. These aliens weren't here for peaceful contact. They were here to make humans slaves. "And if we refuse?" he asked. Ambassador Chris's black eyes seemed to glitter. "Then, the Council will implement corrective measures. Your species will be pacified by force. Your worlds will be occupied. Your people will be relocated to designated areas for proper management." So-Young Kim's hands were shaking as she worked her tablet. "Sir, I'm detecting more energy signatures. Long-range sensors show at least 50 more ships just like this one waiting at the edge of sensor range." The threat was clear. Surrender, or be destroyed. Hyunwoo looked around the room at his people. He saw fear in their eyes, but also something else. Anger. the same anger he felt burning in his chest. "You said our expansion was unpredictable," he said slowly. "What did you mean?" Ambassador Chris tilted his head. "Most species expand slowly, carefully. They contact the council before leaving their home system. They ask permission. They follow rules. Humans do none of these things." "Because we didn't know you existed," Taemin Lee said angrily. "Ignorance is no excuse. Your species has colonized 47 star systems in 300 years. You build military vessels. You test weapons. You show no respect for established galactic order." Hyunwoo was starting to understand. "How long has this galactic council existed?" 12,000 years. We have maintained peace and stability across this galaxy for longer than your entire civilization has existed. And in all that time, no species has ever refused your demands?" Ambassador Chris looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Why would they? The council provides protection, stability, and prosperity. All species benefit from council guidance. All species become slaves," So Young whispered. The alien's eyes focused on her. "Slaves? That is a primitive concept. The council provides structure, order, safety. These are benefits your species clearly lacks." Hyunwoo felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. He thought about his daughter Minjung, who was studying to be a pilot so she could explore new worlds. He thought about his brother Junho, who was building a new life on the farming colony of New Seoul. He thought about all the humans who had left Earth to find freedom and opportunity among the stars. "You said we have 72 hours?" "Correct. When this time period ends, you will provide your official surrender. Council forces will then begin the pacification process. And if our answer is no?" For the first time, Ambassador Chris showed emotion. He looked confused, as if Hyunwoo had asked a question that made no sense. "That is not possible. No species has ever said no to the council." "Well," Hyunwoo said quietly, "you're about to meet your first." The alien stared at him. "Commander Park, I do not think you understand the situation. The council controls thousands of worlds. Our combined fleets number in the hundreds of thousands of ships. Your entire species has perhaps 10,000 vessels, most of them civilian transports." "I understand perfectly." Hyunwoo's voice was steady and calm. "You came here expecting us to surrender our freedom without a fight. You thought we would hand over our worlds, our weapons, and our future because you told us to. It is the logical choice. Resistance will only bring suffering." Hyunwoo smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Ambassador Chris, let me tell you something about humans. We don't like being told what to do. We especially don't like being threatened. And we really don't like bullies." The alien's forearms moved in what might have been confusion. "Your response is unexpected." "I'll bet it is." Hyunwoo turned to Taemin Lee. "Minister, please contact all colonial governors, fleet commanders, and planetary defense coordinators. Emergency War Council in 6 hours. "War Council?" Ambassador Chris's voice rose in pitch. "Commander Park, you cannot be serious. Your species cannot war against the entire Galactic Council. Watch us." So Young Kim was typing frantically on her tablet. "Sir, should I begin emergency military preparations?" "Yes. Full mobilization. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. Contact the civilian transport companies too. If this council wants a war, they're going to get one they'll never forget." Ambassador Chris's image flickered as if his transmission was being interrupted by his own shock. "This is madness. Your species will be extinct within a year." "Maybe," Hyunwoo admitted. "But we'll make sure you remember us. Tell your council that Earth's answer will be delivered within the time limit you specified." I will convey your words, but Commander Park, please reconsider. The council has never been defeated, ever. Well, there's a first time for everything." The transmission cut off, leaving the command center in silence. Then, slowly, Taemin Lee began to clap. Others joined in, until the entire room was applauding. "Sir," So Young said when the noise died down, "what's our actual plan?" He wasn't lying about the numbers. The Council has thousands of times more ships than we do. Hyunwoo looked at the main screen, where long-range sensors still tracked the alien fleet waiting at the edge of their solar system. So young. How long would it take to send a message to every human colony and ship in the galaxy? Using the quantum relay network? About 6 hours for complete coverage. Do it. Send this. Message to everyone. The Galactic Council has threatened Earth and all human colonies with conquest and slavery. We have 72 hours to surrender or fight. Earth chooses to fight. All humans, military and civilian, are requested to return home immediately. We're going to show this council what happens when you threaten human freedom. As his staff rushed to carry out orders, Hyunwoo stared at the alien ship on his screen. He thought about the ambassador's confusion when faced with resistance. These aliens had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years, and apparently, no one had ever told them no. They were about to leave. The quantum relay network had never carried so much traffic. Within hours of the Council's ultimatum, every human colony, every ship, every outpost in the galaxy was connected to Earth. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Admiral Min-ho Choi stood in the Fleet Command Center, watching as ship after ship reported in. His tactical display showed the entire human presence in the galaxy. 47 colonized systems, 12,000 ships, and over 2 billion people spread across the stars. Admiral, the colony ships from Kepler 442 are changing course for Earth, reported Captain Yoon Seo from the communications station. Transit time 14 days at maximum burn. The mining fleets from Proxima Centauri are also moving, added Lieutenant Commander Jae-won. They're armed with industrial plasma cutters and asteroid breakers, not military weapons, but better than nothing, Min-ho finished. He'd seen what mining equipment could do to rock. It would work just fine on alien ships. The door to the command center opened and General Hai-Won-jung walked in. Her uniform was crisp despite having worked for 18 straight hours coordinating planetary defenses. Min-ho, we have a problem, she said without greeting. The civilian transports want to evacuate Earth's population to the outer colonies. Absolutely not. Min-ho's voice was firm. We stand and fight here. That's what I told them. But they're scared. They think we should spread out. Make it harder for the Council to destroy all of humanity at once. Min-ho understood the logic, but he also understood something more important about human nature. If we scatter, we lose. Humans don't fight well when they're running away. We fight best when we're protecting our home. On the other side of the building, Chief Engineer Dae Hyun-yoon was having the best and worst day of his career. The best because every secret weapons project he'd ever dreamed of was suddenly approved for immediate development. The worst because he had less than 3 days to make them work. Dr. Shin, how are the kinetic penetrators coming? He asked. Dr. Yoonji Shin looked up from her computer screen, her hair wild from too much caffeine and too little sleep. The math works. We can accelerate a 1-ton tungsten rod to 0.9 light speed. The problem is targeting at that velocity. What about the plasma lance project? Theoretical breakthrough about 6 hours ago. We can focus a hydrogen fusion reaction into a beam. Range is limited, but the energy output. She showed him the numbers. Dae-hyun whistled. That would punch through anything, assuming we can build it, and assuming it doesn't melt our own ships when we fire it. Across the complex, physicist Jae-sung Ko was working on something even more dangerous. He'd been studying alien technology for decades, not because humanity had ever met aliens, but because they'd found artifacts, old ruins on dead worlds, broken machines that didn't make sense. Now, suddenly, they made perfect sense. Commander Park, he said over the intercom. I need to speak with you immediately. 10 minutes later, he was in the commander's office with a tablet full of data. Sir, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from the alien ship. The technology is advanced, but it's also old. Very old. How old? Based on the energy patterns, I'd guess their ship designs haven't changed in thousands of years. They've been using the same technology for so long that they've stopped innovating. Hyunwoo leaned forward. What does that mean for us? It means they're predictable. Their shields, their weapons, their engines. Everything follows patterns. We can analyze and counter. They're powerful, but they're not adaptive. And we are? Jae-sung smiled grimly. Sir, humans have been at war with each other for our entire history. We've never stopped developing new ways to fight. They've been at peace for 12,000 years. In the outer colonies, the response to Earth's call was immediate and fierce. On New Seoul, Governor Kyung-ho Moon was loading civilian transports with every volunteer who could hold a weapon. On the mining station at Wolf 359, Supervisor Hyunjun Ryu was converting ore haulers into missile platforms. But the most important work was happening on a small research station orbiting Saturn. Dr. Moon Young-oh had been working on theoretical weapons for 20 years. Now, with unlimited resources and a countdown clock, theory was becoming reality. Woo Bin, hand me that quantum stabilizer, she called to her assistant. Woo Bin. Kang looked nervous as he passed her the device. Doctor, are you sure this is safe? The energy readings are off the charts. Safe? No, it's not safe. But neither is letting aliens enslave humanity. She connected the stabilizer to her experimental reactor. If this works, we'll have a weapon that can destroy ships from the inside out. And if it doesn't work, then we'll probably blow up Saturn. But at least we'll go out with a bang. On Earth, the mood was changing from shock to determination. News of the alien ultimatum had spread, despite government attempts to control information. The response from ordinary humans was not panic or fear. It was anger. In Seoul, factory workers were volunteering to convert civilian ships into warships. In New Geneva, retired soldiers were coming out of retirement. In Neo-Tokyo, university students were signing up for emergency military service. Strategist Hyunjun Ryu had been tasked with the impossible, creating a battle plan that could defeat an enemy with overwhelming numerical superiority. She sat in her office surrounded by star charts and probability calculations. The key is not to fight their kind of war, she muttered to herself as she worked. They expect us to line up our fleets and have a traditional space battle. We can't win that way. Her door opened and Commander Park walked in. Hyunjun, I need to know if we have any chance at all. She looked up from her calculations. Sir, in a straight fight, we lose badly. They have too many ships, too much experience, too much firepower. But they've never fought humans before. They've never fought anyone who refuses to follow the rules. They've conquered species who fought like them. Organized, predictable, rational. And we're not rational? Hyunjun smiled. Sir, we're about to declare war on an enemy that outnumbers us 1,000 to 1. Rational species don't do that. They surrender and try to make the best of a bad situation. So what's our strategy? We make them fight our kind of war. We don't line up our fleets for a battle. We hit them everywhere at once. We make them chase us. We make them react to us instead of acting according to their plan. As the second day dawned, Ambassador Chris's ship was still waiting at the edge of the solar system. But now it had company. Human patrol ships had surrounded it at a respectful distance. Not threatening, but watching. Inside the alien vessel, Chris was reporting to his superiors via quantum communication. War Commander Velnash, the human response is unprecedented. The image of a massive reptilian alien appeared on his screen. Explain. They show no signs of preparing to surrender. Instead, they appear to be mobilizing for military action. Their ship movement suggests they are recalling their entire fleet to Earth. That is tactically foolish. Concentrating their forces makes them easier to destroy. Yes, sir. But War Commander, there's something else. I've been monitoring their communications. The humans seem excited about the prospect of fighting us. There was a long pause. Excited? They're not showing fear or despair. They're showing anticipation, as if they welcome the chance to fight. That is not normal behavior for a conquered species. No, sir, it is not. On Earth, the final preparations were being made. Every human ship capable of combat was either already in the solar system or racing toward home. The civilian population was being moved to underground shelters, but they weren't hiding in fear. They were singing old songs about freedom and defiance. Commander Park stood in the main communications center, looking at the countdown clock. 18 hours remained until the council's deadline. Sir, So Young Kim reported. We're receiving quantum messages from human ships throughout the galaxy. They all say the same thing. Earth stands, we stand. How many ships do we have now? Over 8,000 in the solar system, more arriving every hour. And our new weapons? Dr. O's quantum disruptors are installed on 50 ships. The kinetic penetrators are ready. The plasma lances need 6 more hours of testing. Hyun-woo nodded. What about the civilian transports? Armed with mining equipment, construction lasers, and a lot of courage. It was time. Hyun-woo had made his decision during the long night of preparation. Earth would not surrender. Humanity would not kneel. If the Galactic Council wanted a war, they would get one. Open a channel, he ordered. All frequencies. I want every ship in the galaxy to hear this. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Hyun-woo stepped in front of the camera. Behind him stood the flags of every human nation and colony. His uniform was clean and pressed, his expression calm and determined. To the Galactic Council and all who serve them. I am Commander Hyun-woo Park, speaking for all of humanity. We have received your ultimatum. We have considered your demands. We reject them completely. He paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. For 12,000 years you have ruled through fear and intimidation. You have conquered species and called it peace. You have destroyed freedom and called it order. Today that ends. The camera zoomed in on his face, showing the steel in his eyes. You demand that we surrender our weapons. We refuse. You demand that we abandon our colonies. We refuse. You demand that we submit to your rule. We refuse. The deadline had passed 6 hours ago. Ambassador Chris's ship was gone, replaced by something much more terrifying. War Commander Velnash's 6th Fleet had arrived at the edge of the solar system. 300 warships representing 12 different alien species, all united under the Council's banner. But they weren't moving toward Earth. Instead, they had jumped to the Kepler system, humanity's outermost colony. The message was clear. They would make an example of the weakest human settlement first. Captain Sung-min Han watched the alien fleet appear on his sensors and felt his stomach drop. Kepler Station was a farming colony with 12 million civilians and exactly 12 military ships. His flagship, the Soul's Fury, was the largest vessel in the system, and it was barely a third the size of the smallest council ship. Captain, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a message from the alien fleet. Put it through. War Commander Velnash appeared on the main screen. He was massive, even by alien standards. A reptilian creature with scales like armor and eyes like yellow fire. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding stone. Human Commander, I am War Commander Velnash of the Galactic Council. You will surrender this system immediately. Your civilians will be relocated. Your military vessels will be destroyed. Captain Han stood straighter. This is Captain Sung-min Han of the Earth Defense Force. Kepler is a human colony under Earth's protection. We will not surrender. The alien's laugh was like breaking glass. You have 12 primitive vessels. I have 300 advanced warships. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with mercy. No. The simple word seemed to confuse the war commander. What did you say? I said no. If you want this system, you'll have to take it. Behind Han, his crew was working frantically. Lieutenant Boram Seo was in her fighter, running final system checks. Commander Dongwook Nam was coordinating with the other ships in their tiny fleet. Everyone knew this was suicide, but no one was backing down. Captain, the tactical officer reported, the alien ships are moving into attack formation. Energy, weapons charging. All ships, this is Han, you know the plan. We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we make them remember us. The Soul's Fury and her 11 sister ships turned toward the massive alien fleet. It should have been comedy, 12 tiny human vessels charging 300 council warships. Instead, it was the moment that changed galactic history. All fighters launch, Han ordered. Take us in. Boram Seo's fighter shot out of the Soul's Fury's launch bay along with 47 others. Her hands were steady on the controls despite the fear in her stomach. She'd been flying for 8 years, but she'd never been in real combat. "Fox Squadron, this is Fox Leader," she called over the radio. "Remember, we're not trying to win a dogfight. We're trying to punch holes in their big ships so our torpedo bombers can get through." The alien fighters came to meet them, sleek, advanced craft that moved like liquid mercury. They outnumbered the humans 5-1, but that didn't matter. Boram had trained for this her entire career. The first alien fighter that came at her learned what human pilots called aggressive maneuvering. Boram didn't try to outrun or outmaneuver the alien ship. Instead, she flew straight at it, firing everything she had. The alien pilot, expecting a rational dogfight, tried to turn away at the last second. He was too late. Boram's fighter clipped, his wing sending both ships spinning. But while the alien ship lost control and exploded, Boram managed to stabilize and keep flying. "Scratch one, alien," she reported calmly, already lining up her next target. Behind the fighters, the main battle was beginning. The Soul's Fury led the human fleet in a charge that defied all military logic. Instead of trying to maintain distance and fight a long-range battle, they were rushing straight into the alien formation. "Captain, the aliens are trying to surround us," reported the tactical officer. "Good," Han replied. "That means they're not expecting what we're about to do." "Dongwook, are the quantum disruptors ready?" Commander Nam nodded from his weapons station. "All ships report ready, sir." Fire. The quantum disruptors were Dr. O's masterpiece, weapons that could tear apart the molecular bonds holding matter together. They had never been tested in combat, and the range was painfully short. But if they worked, the lead alien ship simply came apart. One second it was a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons. The next second, it was expanding cloud of atoms. "Direct hit," Nam reported with grim satisfaction. "Target destroyed." But the disruptors could only fire once before needing to recharge, and there were still 299 alien ships left. "All ships, ramming speed," Han ordered. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was completely human. The Soul's Fury aimed straight for the alien flagship while her sister ships scattered throughout the Council formation. The aliens, trained in thousands of years of civilized warfare, couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. Ships weren't supposed to ram each other. Crews weren't supposed to sacrifice themselves for tactical advantage, but humans had different rules. The Soul's Fury slammed into War Commander Vel Nash's flagship at half the speed of light. The explosion lit up the entire system and took out 6 nearby Council ships. Captain Han died instantly along with his entire crew, but their sacrifice opened a hole in the alien formation. Commander Nam had transferred to the Busan's Pride when he saw what Han was planning. Now he led the remaining human ships through the gap, targeting the alien command vessels with their kinetic penetrators. The tungsten rods, accelerated to near-light speed, punched through alien shields like they weren't there. Each hit caused catastrophic damage, and the aliens couldn't understand how such primitive weapons were so effective. They didn't know that human engineers had spent centuries perfecting the art of making things break. Every kinetic penetrator was designed to fragment inside the target, sending supersonic metal fragments through delicate systems and crew areas. "Target their engines," Nam ordered. "Cripple them so they can't run." Boram Seo was still alive somehow. Her fighter had taken hits that should have destroyed it, but she kept flying through pure determination. Half her squadron was gone, but they'd taken out twice their number in alien fighters. "All fighters, regroup on me," she called. "We're going after their carriers." The alien carriers were massive ships designed to hold hundreds of fighters. They were also lightly armored, assuming their own fighters would protect them. They weren't expecting 8 human fighters to come screaming out of the chaos at maximum burn. Boram led her remaining pilots straight down the throat of the nearest carrier. Her weapons were nearly exhausted, but she didn't need weapons for what she had in mind. "Fox Squadron, it's been an honor," she said calmly as she lined up on the carrier's reactor core. The explosion took out the entire ship and its 300 fighters. 7 more human pilots followed her example, sacrificing themselves to cripple the alien fleet's fighter screen. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, the 6th Fleet was gone. 300 Council warships had been reduced to drifting wreckage and expanding gas clouds. But the cost to humanity had been terrible. Of the 12 human ships that had started the battle, only 3 were still functional. The Busan's Pride, the Inchen's Hammer, and the Guangzhou's Sword hung in space, their hulls scarred and their crews exhausted. Commander Nam sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. They had won. Somehow, impossibly, they had won. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command." Admiral Minho Choi's face appeared on the screen. "Commander Nam, we've been monitoring the battle. Status report." "Admiral, the alien fleet has been destroyed. Kepler Station is secure." "But sir," Nam's voice broke slightly, "we lost 9 ships, over 15,000 dead." "Understood. Commander, the entire galaxy watched that battle. You've just proven that the Council can be beaten." Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The mighty Sixth Fleet, which had never known defeat in 1,000 years of service, had been destroyed by 12 primitive human ships. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. It was terrifying. On Council Prime, the ruling council was in emergency session. High Councilor Zethkri, leader of the Hegemon Empire, stared at the reports in disbelief. How is this possible? The Sixth Fleet had every advantage. Military advisor Quindar, a spider-like creature with 8 arms, was analyzing the battle data. "High Councilor, the humans fought unlike any species we have encountered. They used suicide tactics. They sacrificed their own ships to damage ours. That is not rational behavior." "No, it is not, but it was effective. They destroyed ships worth centuries of development with vessels that cost them months to build." Another councillor, the gas being ethereal Nexthul, spoke from its environmental tank. "Perhaps we underestimated them. We should send a larger fleet." "How large?" Zethkri asked. "The 7th, 8th, and 9th fleets. 900 ships. Surely that will be sufficient." But privately, several council members were beginning to doubt. The humans had done something unprecedented. They had turned a hopeless battle into a victory through sheer determination and willingness to sacrifice everything on Earth. The mood was somber, but determined. The victory at Kepler had come at a terrible cost, but it had proven something important. The Council could bleed. The news of Kepler spread across the galaxy faster than the Council could contain it. On 100 worlds in 1,000 systems, species that had submitted to Council rule for millennia suddenly began to whisper a single word: hope. Admiral Insiak Lim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Around him, the combined human fleet prepared for something no species had attempted in 12,000 years: a direct assault on Council territory. "Admiral," reported Captain So Hyun Bae from the communications station, "all ships report ready. The Corvin clans are maintaining their neutrality, but they're not interfering with our passage through their space." "What about the Theta 7 mining colonies?" "Open rebellion, sir. They've declared independence and are requesting human protection." Insiak smiled grimly. The victory at Kepler had done more than destroy a Council fleet. It had shattered the myth of Council invincibility. Across the galaxy, oppressed species were beginning to think the unthinkable. Resistance was possible. Navigation. Set course for the Rigel system. Time to show the Council what happens when they threaten Earth. The Rigel system was a major Council supply hub, defended by what should have been an impregnable space fortress. For 3,000 years it had coordinated resources for the Council's expansion across this spiral arm of the galaxy. In 2 hours, it would be humanity's first conquest. But this wasn't the same human fleet that had fought desperately at Kepler. In the months since that battle, human technology had evolved at an unprecedented rate. Dr. Moon Young-Oh's weapons labs had been working around the clock, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. "Captain Kang," Insiak called to his weapons officer. "Status on the new plasma lances." Colonel Wu Bin Kang checked his displays. "All ships equipped and ready, sir. The focusing arrays tested at 97% efficiency." and the quantum torpedoes, loaded and armed. Each torpedo can phase through conventional shields and detonate inside the target. These weren't the desperate improvised weapons used at Kepler. These were purpose-built instruments of war, designed by humans who had studied alien technology and found ways to defeat it. But the real advantage wasn't in the weapons. It was in the crews that used them. Lieutenant Commander Ji-hoon Park, no relation to Commander Hyun-woo Park, piloted his fighter through an asteroid field at speeds that would have terrified most alien pilots. Behind him, his squadron followed in perfect formation, their ships weaving between rocks the size of buildings. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader," he called over the radio. "Remember, the Council doesn't expect anyone to attack through an asteroid field. We're going to use that against them." "Copy, Phoenix Leader," came the responses from his pilots. They were young, most of them barely out of flight school, but they had something the Council's ancient pilots lacked. They had grown up knowing that the alternative to victory was slavery. The Rigel Fortress was massive, a moon-sized structure bristling with weapons and shields. It had never been successfully attacked. The Council considered it impregnable. They were about to learn otherwise. "All ships, this is Admiral Lim," Inseok broadcast to his fleet. "The plan is simple. We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we don't give them time to call for help. Captain So-hyun, take your strike force and eliminate their communications array. Colonel Kim, your Marines will secure the command center once we've breached their defenses." Colonel Hyo-jun Kim nodded from his transport ship. His Marines were equipped with the latest human combat gear, powered armor that could operate in vacuum, weapons that could punch through alien hull materials, and most importantly, the absolute determination to win. "Sir," Kim reported, "my people are ready. Just get us inside." The attack began with Phoenix Squadron's run through the asteroid field. Ji-hoon led his fighters in a high-speed approach that no Council sensor had detected. They emerged from the asteroids at point-blank range and immediately targeted the fortress's weapon emplacements. "Fox 1, Fox 2, Ji-hoon called as he fired his quantum torpedoes. The weapons phased through the fortress's shields and detonated inside the massive gun turrets, turning them into expanding clouds of superheated gas. Behind him, his squadron spread out across the fortress's surface, their plasma cannons carving through alien armor like it was paper. In 30 seconds, they had eliminated half the fortress's defensive weapons. "Phoenix Leader to Admiral Lim," Ji-hoon reported. "Defensive grid is down. You have a clear approach." The human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Admiral Lim's new tactics were based on a simple principle. The Council had forgotten how to fight an enemy that refused to follow the rules. "All ships, fire," Lim ordered. The quantum disruptors improved since Kepler reached out across space and began tearing apart the fortress's structure at the molecular level. Plasma lances carved through alien materials like burning swords. Kinetic penetrators accelerated to relativistic speeds, punched holes completely through the massive station. But this time, the humans weren't just trying to destroy. They were trying to capture. "Colonel Kim, you're clear for boarding," Captain So-hyun reported from her strike cruiser. "We've breached their hull in sections 7, 12, and 19. Kim's Marines launched from their transports in powered armor that let them move through space like human-shaped missiles." They slammed into the fortress's hull and immediately began cutting their way inside. What they found surprised them. The alien defenders weren't the fierce warriors the Council's propaganda claimed. They were bureaucrats and technicians who had never expected to face actual combat. Most surrendered immediately when faced with human Marines who seemed to enjoy fighting. "Admiral," Kim reported from inside the fortress, "we've secured the command center. You need to see this." 20 minutes later, Admiral Lim was standing in the fortress's main control room, staring at displays that showed the Council's entire logistical network. Supply routes, fleet positions, resource allocations, everything. "Colonel, how much of this can we capture?" "All of it, sir. Their data storage is quantum-based, but our tech people can crack it. We'll know everything about Council operations in this sector." But the real prize was something none of them had expected. In the fortress's detention center, they found prisoners, members of a dozen different species who had been arrested for seditious thoughts or anti-Council activities. Among them was War Chief Sejin Park of the Corvin clans. a human-Corvan hybrid whose mother had been one of the first human ambassadors to make contact with non-council species. "Admiral Lim," Sijin said as human marines freed her from her cell, "I've been waiting for someone like you to show up." "Someone like me?" "Someone willing to fight the council directly. The Corvan clans have been neutral for centuries, but that's about to change. When word of this victory spreads, half the galaxy is going to want to join your rebellion." She was right. Within hours, the quantum relay networks were carrying news of humanity's first offensive victory. The Rigel Fortress, symbol of council, power for 3 millennia, had fallen to human forces in less than 4 hours. The reaction was immediate. On Theta 7, the mining colonies declared full independence and began converting their industrial equipment into weapons. On Zephyr Prime, the enslaved Nalthek began sabotaging council installations. On dozens of worlds, resistance movements that had hidden in shadows for generations suddenly began operating in the open. But the council's response was swift and brutal. High Counselor Zethkri ordered pacification measures for any world showing signs of rebellion. Council forces began bombarding civilian targets, trying to terrorize the galaxy back into submission. It backfired spectacularly. On Earth, Commander Hyunwoo Park watched the reports with growing anger. The council was targeting hospitals, schools, and civilian shelters in their desperation to maintain control. "So young," he said to his science. "Officer, how many ships do we have now?" 15,000, sir, including converted civilian vessels and ships from allied species. The Corvan clans officially joined us 3 days ago, and they brought 200 heavy cruisers. What about our new allies? Dr. Yoonji Shin, now promoted to Director of Alien Technology Integration, looked up from her workstation. "The Nalthek are incredible engineers, sir. They've shown us how to improve our shield generators by 300%. The Zephyrians have given us access to their stealth technology." It was remarkable. In less than a year, humanity had gone from being alone in the galaxy to leading a coalition of species united against council tyranny, but Hyunwoo knew this was just the beginning. "Admiral Lim," he said over the quantum communicator, "what's your assessment of council military capabilities?" Inseok's image appeared on the main screen. He was aboard the captured Rigel Fortress, which had been converted into humanity's forward command base. "Sir, we've analyzed their fleet deployments. The Council has approximately 50,000 ships spread across the galaxy, but most of them are patrol vessels and transports. Their actual combat strength is about 15,000 heavy warships. So we're approaching numerical parity? In ships, yes, but sir, there's something else. The data we captured here shows that the Council's technology hasn't advanced in over 8,000 years. They've been using the same designs, the same tactics, the same strategies for the massive fleet gathered in the empty space between galaxies, where no Council sensors could detect them. 25,000 ships from 100 different worlds, all united under one banner: freedom. At the center of the formation, fleet, Admiral Chan Woo-song stood on the bridge of the Liberation, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. "Admiral," reported Captain Young-Soo An from the tactical station, "all ships report ready for the final jump." Chanwoo looked at the display showing their incredible fleet. Human ships flew alongside Corvan battlecruisers and Nalthek stealth frigates. Former slaves fought beside their former enemies, all united by the dream of ending Council tyranny. "Admiral, Hee-Jin Lee, status of your strike force?" Admiral Lee's image appeared on the communication screen. She was aboard the Soul's Vengeance, leading a special task force of the fastest ships in the fleet. "Ready, sir. My ships will jump first and take out their sensor networks. That should give the main fleet a few minutes of surprise." "Captain Jun-Ho Yu, are your boarding teams prepared?" Captain Yu nodded grimly from his assault transport. 2,000 Marines in powered armor, sir. If we can get close enough to Council Prime's surface, we'll take their command center." Council Prime was more than just a world, it was a statement. The artificial planet was the size of Earth's moon, but hollow inside and filled with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Its surface was covered with cities that housed the ruling elite of every Council species. Around it orbited massive, defensive platforms that could destroy entire fleets. For 12,000 years it had been the symbol of unbreakable power. Today, that would change. All ships, Chanwu broadcast to the fleet. This is the moment we've been fighting for. Council Prime has never been attacked because every species in the galaxy believed it was impossible. Today, we proved them wrong. He paused, thinking of all the battles that had brought them to this moment. Kepler, where Captain Sungmin Han had shown the galaxy that humans would fight. Rigel, where they had proven the Council could be defeated. 100 other worlds where human courage had inspired entire species to rise up. We're not just fighting for humanity anymore. We're fighting for every species that has ever dreamed of freedom, for every world that has suffered under Council rule, for every child who deserves to grow up free. The response came from 25,000 ships in a dozen different languages, but the meaning was the same. For freedom. Admiral Lee, execute your jump. The first wave of ships vanished into hyperspace, racing toward Council Prime at faster than light speed. Their mission was suicide. Punch through the outer defenses and create a gap for the main fleet. Admiral Lee watched Council Prime grow larger on her screens. As her strike force dropped out of hyperspace, the artificial world was even more massive than the intelligence reports had suggested, surrounded by defensive platforms that could house entire armies. All ships target the sensor arrays, she ordered. We need to blind them before the main fleet arrives. Her ships spread out across the system, their plasma lances and quantum torpedoes reaching out to destroy the Council's early warning systems. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Energy beams and missile swarms that lit up space like a deadly fireworks display. The Soul's vengeance shook under alien fire as Lee pushed her ship deeper into the defensive grid. Around her, human ships were dying, but they were taking the Council platforms with them. Ma'am, her tactical officer reported. We've lost 60% of the strike force, but their sensor network is down. The main fleet has a clear approach. Signal. Admiral Song, Lee ordered as another energy beam punched through her ship's hull. Tell him the door is open. 24,000 ships materialized around Council Prime in the largest military operation in galactic history. The sight was so overwhelming that several Council defense platforms simply stopped firing, their crews unable to comprehend what they were seeing. All ships commence bombardment, Admiral Song ordered. The combined firepower of the Allied fleet reached out across space like the fist of an angry god. Quantum disruptors tore apart defensive platforms at the molecular level. Plasma lances carved through alien armor like burning swords. Kinetic penetrators accelerated to near light speed, punched holes through structures that had stood for millennia. But Council Prime was far from defenseless. The artificial world's surface bristled with weapon emplacements that had been built by the greatest minds in the galaxy. Energy beams powerful enough to crack moons reached out to swat human ships from the sky. Captain Young Soo-an watched his tactical display as the battle developed. Admiral, we're taking heavy casualties. The Council's planetary defenses are stronger than we anticipated. Expected, Song replied calmly. Captain Yu, are you ready for your run? Captain Jun Ho Yu's voice came over the communication system from his assault transport. Ready, sir. My Marines are suited up and ready to go. The plan was insane, which made it perfectly human. While the fleet engaged the orbital defenses, Yu would take his transport ships and ram them directly into Council Prime's surface. His Marines would then fight their way to the command center and capture or kill the Council leadership. Beginning our approach, Yu reported as his ships dove toward the artificial world's surface. Defensive fire is intense. That was an understatement. Energy beams and missile swarms filled the space around the transport ships like a deadly storm. Most of the transports were destroyed before they reached the surface, but a few made it through. Yu's ship hit Council Prime's surface at tremendous speed, its armored prow punching through alien architecture like it was made of paper. His Marines poured out of the wreckage in powered armor, their weapons cutting down alien defenders who had never faced real combat. Admiral Song, Yu reported as his Marines fought their way through the corridors of the artificial world. We're inside. Resistance is lighter than expected. These aren't soldiers, they're bureaucrats. That was the Council's greatest weakness. For 12,000 years they had ruled through fear and superior technology. They had never needed to actually fight for their power. Now, faced with enemies who refused to surrender, they didn't know what to do. But in the Council's great chamber, High Counselor Zethkri was making a final desperate decision. "Activate the planet killer," he ordered his remaining staff. The weapon had been built in secret over 1,000 years ago, a massive device that could destroy entire star systems. It had never been used, held in reserve as the ultimate threat against any species that might dare to rebel. "High Counselor," one of his advisors protested, "if we use that weapon, it will destroy Council Prime as well. We'll all die." "Better to die than to let these primitive humans rule the galaxy," Zethkri snarled. "If we cannot have our empire, no one will have anything." But he had underestimated human determination. Captain Yu's Marines had fought there, way deep into the artificial world's core, following intelligence gathered from captured Council installations. "Sir," one of his sergeants reported, "we've found something. It looks like a massive weapon system." Yu looked at the enormous device, recognizing it from briefings about theoretical superweapons. "That's a planet killer. If they activate it, it'll destroy everything in the system, including us. Can we stop it?" Yu studied the alien controls, comparing them to the technical manuals his people had prepared. "Maybe, but someone has to. Stay behind to manually override the system." The choice was clear. Yu ordered his Marines to evacuate while he remained behind to prevent the weapon's activation. As alien forces closed in on his position, he worked frantically to disable the device that could destroy his entire fleet. Above, the space battle was reaching its climax. Admiral Song's fleet had broken through the orbital defenses and was bombarding Council Prime's surface installations. But the cost had been terrible. Over half the Allied ships were destroyed or crippled. "Admiral," Captain An reported, "we're receiving a signal from Captain Yu." Yu's image appeared on the screen, his powered armor damaged and his face bloody. Behind him, the sounds of combat echoed through the corridors. "Admiral, I've disabled their superweapon, but I can't get out. The Council forces have me surrounded." "Captain, we can send reinforcements." "No time, sir. Their leadership is in the chamber above me. If you want to end this war, you need to take them now." Song realized what Yu was telling him. The captain was going to sacrifice himself to keep the weapon disabled while the fleet completed its mission. "It's been an honor, sir," Yu said simply, then cut the transmission. The final assault on Council Prime's leadership took another 6 hours of brutal fighting. When it ended, High Counselor Zethkri and his entire government were either dead or captured. The symbol of galactic tyranny lay in ruins, its cities burning, and its defensive grid destroyed. But the real victory came in the hours that followed. As news of Council Prime's fall spread across the galaxy, something remarkable happened. On 1,000 worlds, alien populations rose up against their council governors. Fleets that had served the Council for centuries defected to the Allied cause. The Galactic Council, which had ruled for 12,000 years, collapsed in a single day. Admiral Song stood on Council Prime's surface 3 days later, watching, as Allied engineers worked to repair the damage from the battle.